And you have to go live on Facebook.
I'm waiting.
I am ready now.
Okay. Also, I should record it.
I would do that,
I
yes.
think that we should record
We
this
should definitely record the episode.
for posterity's sake.
It's really surprising YouTube hasn't canceled us yet anyway.
I know.
I'm a little offended, actually.
Yeah. There like 2 years ago, I was expecting it was like, because people were starting to like, the train was
Canceled.
rolling.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I wonder how long we'll last. And we're still here. Flying
I am shocked.
under the radar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today, I am here to give you the assurance that I have not forgotten you.
If we want to see the new evangelization become more than just jargon, if we want to see it grow legs and gain traction and change the world, we have got to take seriously our responsibilities as husbands and fathers, and especially as sons of God.
I want to propose to you then that something that our world is desperately in need of in the midst of this crisis is Catholic Christian masculinity.
If you want to be a good father, then bring your children to confession with you.
I can't get there unless I become a man of ascesis, a man of asceticism, a man of training.
A man not doing penance, a man not disciplined, is not a man.
You guys have upped your game.
You know what, guys? I gotta say, I love the concept of Man Show.
Warning: the Catholic Man Show is about to begin.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We are on the Lord's team, the winning side. And that's why we raise our glass. Shout out to Pope Benedict the 16th. May he rest in peace. May he be purified from his sins and be seated at the spot that has been waiting for him for all of eternity.
Indeed.
Pope Benedict is the guy who we got we're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. A little slogan from.
Which is a good slogan.
It is a good
It's been
slogan.
good for us. It's treated
It
us
has
well.
treated us well. So we're grateful to him. Also, this is the night before the camp out. It is very late, especially for me, because I go to bed. Like, I've been in bed for at least 30 minutes normally. It's a late evening.
Which, like, you just started doing about, I don't know, a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's quite that long, but
Yeah,
it's like
but
you used to be just a regular person.
Right.
And then you turned into like an old fart.
Yeah. And it's been great, to be honest with you.
I love it.
Yeah. Turns out I liked it even better than I thought. Had I known how great this would have been, would have become it earlier.
You know what? When I get old, I am just really going to play the card. I'm going to play that card.
Oh,
hard.
me too.
You know,
I hope the Lord lets me live that long.
Like, you know, there are
only
just certain
for that reason.
situations where it's like, you know, we're following the rules like this or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then like old people, it's like they just look.
Yeah,
up
I'm not
at
gonna
it,
do
it's
that.
like, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
I'm super old. All right, like nothing. I just witnessed a situation like this recently, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a great example of it, and it's in my mind, and I just can't recall. The figure of it's in my mind. The details are not. Anyway, so you just have to trust me that it was a great story.
You know what? I'm gonna do it. It's bold of me to do, but I'm gonna do
You're just
that.
gonna go ahead and trust me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. That makes me feel a little bit better.
So again, this is the night right before the Catholic Man Show camp
Very
out.
exciting.
Very
I am
exciting. We
excited.
just went to Costco. We just got back from Costco. Juan, you, myself, we went to Costco. We were debating on how much meat we bought and like how much it was all going to cost. And I was way over.
Yeah,
or
you're
way
way over.
Way
Like,
over. Yeah, way over.
By a factor of 2. In your mind, inflation has just decimated
Yeah.
the meat industry.
Yeah. But we spent a solid $1,300.
Yeah.
Got a lot of bacon, a lot of...
I mean, it's basically half of that is bacon and wings.
Yeah. And we're going to have... Here's the thing about this is what I'm so excited about, is that couple guys are bringing out AJ and a couple of his buddies are bringing out the Knights of Columbus smoker.
Yeah.
And like smoking 6 pork butts all Saturday.
I can't wait to just go stand over by it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just
let it waft over me.
Right.
Because by Saturday, I'm going to be honest.
I'm going to be hungry.
I'm going to be hungry, and I'm also like going to be very far away from what you might call like clean by like modern day standards.
Right.
Been camping all weekend.
Right.
So then I'm just going to like go sit in the smoke of that smoker, and
And
I'm just
just
going to absorb it because I feel like
bask in the glory.
I'll have the right consistency at that moment to really like take up a lot of the smell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
it'll actually be an improvement.
It should be effective.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm really
And
excited.
then I'm going to eat it. It's
Cannot
the best
wait.
part.
So yeah, we're really excited about that. If you guys don't know, we go to Clear Creek Monastery or Clear Creek Abbey, which is a Benedictine cloistered abbey, and we pray with the monks.
They're so awesome.
We have, we have a good whiskey tasting. We have a cigar rolling by Ultimo Cigars.
Mm-hmm.
We actually bought everybody a cigar this year. Didn't even tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to touch you. I was like, that was weird. Glad the people in podcast didn't see that. YouTube. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm
it's
all
kind of
right.
weird.
I'm all right.
But yeah, so like I'm really excited about like the weekend. It's gonna be great to get away
The
and
camp
just
out
like
is so much fun.
It really is.
I'm so glad we've got
and we've talked about it.
Guys coming from all over the place.
Yeah.
Next year, you guys, you gotta if you've never been, you gotta put this on your calendar.
It's like the end of September is typically when we do it.
Right. The last weekend of September is
when we try to do it.
What we shoot for. So it's pretty consistent at this point. We did have to move it last year, but that's only because it was conflicting with our pilgrimage.
Mm-hmm.
So you really try to come next year. Speaking of pilgrimages, we're going to the Holy Land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we want you to come with us.
We want you to come with us. This would be Adam and I's first time in the Holy Land. So, like, we can all go experience it together.
But we have Father Patrick Briscoe, Dominican.
Yeah, he has been there.
And we're excited because he's going to just
gonna
dump a wealth of
unload.
knowledge.
Yeah, he's gonna back up the truck.
Yeah, and just, like, let us have it. Hey, so I want to talk about this whiskey. This is an epic whiskey. This is something that I really want our
I was also about
listeners
to jump there.
To know about this. So this whiskey that we're having tonight is Bone Snapper Straight Rye Whiskey. It's a single barrel, and it's special for many reasons. One, it's a bottle dedicated to Saint Joseph, and you're asking me,
not the bottle, not the glass,
the whiskey,
not
the whiskey,
the whole whiskey.
The whiskey is dedicated.
So like the distiller.
No. Like this.
You just mean this particular. That's what I'm saying. I didn't want people to be confused about like this particular whiskey.
Well, I said this bottle.
Yeah, and I didn't know if, if you're in like you can't see. I didn't know if people were thinking like, oh, there's something about the shape of the bottle that they've dedicated. They just try to clear things up. Maybe I didn't. I was trying.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. This bottle that I have in my hand,
this one in particular,
is dedicated to Saint Joseph in honor of a child. So our friend Ben, who's now our friend.
He's our good friend.
He's a good friend, Ben.
We go way back.
He sent us this bottle of whiskey. Here's what he said. He said, during the novena to St. Joseph, I promised him a bottle of my favorite whiskey if my wife and I could conceive. 4 days after the feast day, my wife told me she was pregnant. Not sure how to give St. Joe the bottle, I sent it to you to enjoy on the show that helps me in my faith. So I think this is a good reason for many reasons, right?
I just think we need more of this in the world.
Yeah, and his brother, Ben?
Josh.
Or Ben is Ben. Yeah, his Ben. His brother Josh.
He also, Ben wrote us a letter that had a little bit more details than what he put out here on this card. He was considering, like, what should I do? How do I give this bottle of whiskey to St. Joseph? And they have a statue. Their parish was St. Joseph.
Yeah.
And he thought, well, maybe I'll just leave it by the statue and, like, see what happens.
Yeah.
And then he said
a phenomenal idea.
He said, then I had a better idea, and I'm sure you'll agree. I decided to send it to you. And yes, Ben, not that the first idea was terrible. I don't think it was. This is clearly a better idea. I mean, I agree. Yes, you were right. I do agree with you.
Yes.
Thank you for sending this, and congratulations.
Right.
I don't know if this is number 1 or number 15 for Ben, but
congrats.
All the same, congratulations, man. That's it's such a great story. Maybe if he's a boy, you'll name him after
St. Joseph.
St. Joseph,
or
our heavenly.
You call him Bone Snapper.
Okay, that could be a nickname.
Yeah. Also, really cool. You didn't realize this, Ben, but this was barreled in June of 2013. Do you know what we were doing in June of 2013?
We were starting the show.
The radio station.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
10 years ago, we had just started the Catholic radio station. So this was bottled, or
almost
barreled.
At the same time.
No, not bottled, barreled.
Yeah.
Like 2 months after we started the Catholic radio.
That's pretty
here in
crazy.
Tulsa.
Yeah.
So we're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to Ben and his child to be
and his wife.
Come, and his wife and his brother Josh, who introduced Ben to the show.
May you all be in heaven someday. So this is it was bottled in 2017, aged 52 months, and it says Bone Snapper is something that gets your attention. Bone Snapper Rye is a rich, bold, spicy whiskey that should be sipped and savored. Enjoy it over ice if you care to, or a favorite cocktail, but please enjoy responsibly.
Man, I think it's delicious.
Yeah, 59%, 59.6% ABV. Almost 120 proof.
I think I need to get into more rye whiskeys because they have that like raw edge to them that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't drink a lot of rye. I don't know why. I could write a poem, I know.
And you're not even aware.
I was not even aware of the fact.
Yes. Man, that is
Isn't
delicious.
that nice?
That is very very good.
A lot of ryes
strong.
Or like overpowering, I think. This one isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's still got, it's like, man, it's still full flavored, but I don't know. This one is not, it's not like blowing me away.
As far as like the alcohol.
With the rye.
Yeah. It's delicious. So we're here, about to go to the Catholic Man Show camp out, but we want to bring you this episode before we did. We almost didn't do one this evening.
Because it is late.
But we were like, no.
We're going to do it.
We love you guys. We're going to do it. You going to talk about, what are we talking about?
The 8 principal faults.
It's your
We're going
fault.
to talk about what's wrong with all you people. And me.
But I'm not recording that part. So.
But mostly you people.
If you scroll up, you'll be able to. There you go.
There it is. I was like, why is that so hard to click on?
Yep, that's why.
What do you mean?
You people. Very good. Let's keep rolling.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan. We're sipping on some Bone Snapper straight rye whiskey, single barreled, delicious. Today we're going to be talking about the 8 principal faults which attack mankind. So these are according to St. John Cassian in a conference that he had with Abbot.
Different abbots.
Serapion. I don't know who this guy is, but he was asking. They had a chat about this, and they wrote it down, and it was really great. Really, Saint Cassian he's so underrated.
Yeah, he is flown. He is kind of skirted underneath the radars. I think
a lot of people don't know who he is
because he's I think he's much more venerated in the Eastern churches.
Yes, I think you're right.
And so, but in the Western Rite, in the Latin Rite, because they're he's right after Saint Augustine if I remember correctly. Right, he's like 400s, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And so I think probably Saint Augustine probably overshadows him because it's right before
Saint
him.
Augustine is a big figure, obviously.
Especially in the Latin Rite.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe that's, I don't know. I'm making this up. I'm assuming that that could be the case.
Saint John Cassian is sort of like Aquinas in many ways, in that he was very good at like categorizing things,
especially in the morality aspects.
Yeah, but saying, all right, here's the distinction between these things. When you read him, he's very prescriptive. So he doesn't just say, here's what it is. He also says, here's what to do about it, which is very helpful. Because he's writing for himself and for monks mostly. People who were, at the time, Christianity was like expanding into these new areas. Like the monastic life was developing, and people still didn't have it all figured out yet. How to go live in the desert or how to live in a community, and what should our life and our rule be like? What things should we be worried about? So St. John Cassian was the one who fleshed out a lot of those things for the church.
His
people that a lot of the later saints built heavily upon.
I agree. Yeah, his two main writings that he has. So if you want to Google like the two books in which you would want to get is the Conferences and then the Institutes. The Conferences is great because he like you said, he gives a lot of prescriptions of like, here's the problem, here's how you solve it, right? Yeah. And then if I recall correctly, the Institutes, basically the first parts talk about how to live as a monk, which is not something that you have to worry about as the lady. However, the second half or the 2/3 it talks about all the capital vices in which he lays out. Which is very good as well. And in fact, I've drawn from him in a previous episode when we talked about one of the vices. I can't remember which one we talked about, but I drew from him in the Institutes, the book The Institutes, when we talked about it.
So today we're going to be pulling from the Conferences, and even when you have writers who are writing specifically to monks or to religious vocation, there's still a lot of just this. They're still really great to read, right? Even though I'm not a monk,
right?
There are so many things. They're talking about how to overcome your passions, how to
order your life,
how to deal with yourself, right? How to introduce discipline and
discipline.
Yes, thank you, discipline into your life. Where does that belong? And so even when you look at like Thomas à Kempis, he was also writing for monks, but obviously. That's his work is still something that everybody can really get a lot from. Anything else on Cassian before we jump into it?
I like him.
I do too. So according to Cassian, there are 8 principal faults. Now these are very, very similar. They're gonna match up kind of one for one with the 7 deadly sins.
Okay.
Plus 1.
Okay.
So I'm going to read the names that he gave to them because they're more
much
fun.
Better.
They're more fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are 8 principal faults which attack mankind, and those are gastromargia, or gluttony.
We should bring back gastromargia.
Yeah. You're such a gastromargian.
Is that some kind of like heretical sect?
What'd you call me? I have some gas X. If that would help. So there's gastromargia, fornication, philargyria, which is avarice or love of money, anger, dejection, acedia, senodoxia, which is boasting or vainglory, and then pride. So
the worst.
All of those will line up with the 7 deadly sins. The addition here is dejection, which he reckons as a principal fault. And so what he's doing is he's having this conversation with this other abbot that I mentioned the name of. I'm not sure if I said it right.
It's not Sarpedon, but it's like Sarpedon.
Yeah, Sarpedon maybe. I don't know. So he says that these 8 principal faults can be categorized as either natural to us or as arising outside of our nature. But all of them, no matter where they come from, they act in a 4-fold manner. Okay, so he's going to spend the first half of this discussion simply categorizing, making distinctions.
Okay.
Here's what one is or what one is not.
Can I ask you a question before we get too deep into this?
Please.
Like, what do you think the benefit is of focusing on the negative, focusing on the sin, like knowing what the sin is? Like, what is the benefit of that? Like, I can hear. I think some people would be like, "Why are you talking about the vice? Like, why don't you talk about the virtue? Like, like what is the purpose of like focusing and orienting our discussion towards the sin?"
Well, you need to do both. You need to know the virtue, certainly, but you also need to know the vice. If you don't know your enemy, then you cannot effectively wage war against him. Okay, so if you don't know the problem. If you want to solve a problem, the first thing you have to do is know the problem. Okay, you have to know where the error is. You have to know what's causing the error, and then you can fix the problem. Then you can introduce the virtue. You can right the wrong. Okay, because virtue is this path, the middle road. Okay, that it's not excessive in one way or the other. Okay, it's this virtuous middle way, with some exceptions and some virtues. But in general, that's what it is. It's this medium between two extremes. So there is fault on either side. And if you don't know what the fault is, then you don't know how to pursue that virtue is the middle way. Do I need to steer left or right? So I think you have to know and understand what the faults are, what the vices are, to accurately and efficiently achieve virtue.
Okay, I'll award you 1,000 points.
Yes. I can't wait to use my points. So when it comes to these, we're going to be categorizing them, which is helpful. Like,
because ordering things,
right? When you're reading about the order and you're just like, okay, this sin, and then you read and come to know more accurately what it is, what box does it fit in. Sometimes you say like, oh, I do that, or sometimes you think, oh, I have this problem, and then as you read and study it more, you realize, no, actually, that's not that's not my problem. I actually have this other struggle over here. And one thing about Cassian is that he's gonna tell us, if this is your problem, do this. He's very prescriptive in that way, right? And he's also, one thing that I really like about what he does is he lays out the chain of vice, the chain of faults. That one fault leads to this, which leads to this, which leads to this, and then he tells you what to do, no matter where you are in the chain. Confession is numero uno. So,
okay. I didn't mean to. I already detracted us, but I just wanted to make sure that.
I like it.
Okay. Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay, so there's a fourfold manner in which all of these faults approach us. Some of them originate outside of us. Some of them come from within us. Some can be consummated without an act on the part of the flesh. Oh, some cannot be consummated.
Yeah, sorry. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So some must be consummated with an act of the flesh. These are gluttony.
It requires our body.
It requires use of your body in order to do it. Okay. You can't have gluttony or fornication without doing something with your body. Okay. Where others can be completed without a bodily act. Things like pride or vainglory.
Like you can think of it mentally or like just interior disposition.
Yeah, simply
of some
giving
sort.
Assent of the will to a specific thought.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I don't need my body to do it. Some find reason for their being excited outside of us. Okay, so
basically what other people are doing.
Right. They might not need the body. I might not need my body, but they don't come from within me. They come from without. So these would be covetousness and anger. Okay, so I see something that somebody else has, and now I covet it.
It's like what other people. It's an exterior motive.
These are external stimuli which bring about these sins or these temptations. Anyway,
that makes sense.
And then some are aroused by internal feelings. So this would be acedia and dejection.
Things in which, like interiorly, you're feeling.
Yeah, nobody else put them there. It's just they came from within. I've just being tempted from within my own soul and mind.
So when we get back, as we can talk about this, I want to spend a little bit of time on gluttony. I've been reading John Senior, rereading John Senior.
Okay.
And I want to like talk to you a little bit about techne and gluttony.
Okay.
We'll be right back. I gotta find the quote, but I can find it.
Do you want me to wait a second? It's already been like 5. I'm gonna go. I'll bring this in.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sipping on a little bit of this Phone Snapper Straight Rye Whiskey, talking about 8 faults in which St. John Cassian lays out. Before the break, we talked about basically the fourfold manner in which these things can manifest, right? Whether
external or internal,
right?
And then with the body, without the body.
Yes,
those are the 4.
Okay, so but yeah, and before the break, I was talking about how I wanted to discuss. I was hoping to find this quote, and I thought that I already, I thought that I saved it. Here's something a fun thing that I do that is actually thanks to our buddy Dean Harrison Garlic. He taught me, or he suggested this, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, and so I totally stole it from him.
Yeah.
But as you're reading through different books, and like there are different like phrases that like really strike you, or like some wordsmith like this, like, wow, that was really good.
Yeah.
To copy it down and then put it in your notes in your iPhone by that person, and so that way like you can always come back to it.
What if you don't have an iPhone?
Well, I don't.
The whole thing doesn't work.
I really don't know what you're doing with your life. If that's the case.
I'm over here like in the land of freedom with my Android.
But
it's a treacherous world.
Yeah.
But it's a free world.
But so whatever your notes app is, or whatever you use for your iPhone.
There's a Samsung Notes.
Okay.
That I think nobody's ever used. I'm sure somebody uses it.
But like as I'm listening to audiobooks or I'm reading a text and something really sticks out to me, it's like, ooh, that's really good. And when that happens, like if I hear that again, it will trigger like my thought process. Yeah. Anyway, I write it down.
So you thought you had a note. You do. You
I
find
thought.
it?
I think I found. Look, no, not the exact one, but this will help.
Okay.
So talking about gluttony and talking about techne,
which is what? Adam?
Technology, like technology.
Yeah.
And John Senior's talking about in the Restoration of Christian Culture, which is something that we'll probably read as a book club and for Patreon, patreon.com/The Catholic Man Show. Tough read,
yeah.
Because
it's like one to have on your shelf, like mentally, like there. I read it, I processed it. Probably not going to dive into it again, like soon. Someday I'll come back. But it's it is kind of a tough but fulfilling read.
Yeah, and it makes you really think.
Right.
And it's not like a tough read as far as like, oh, it's very philosophical and things like that. It's just like
you'll know all the words.
Right. Yeah. And the concepts will be very familiar to you.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's talking about like he calls it like one of his chapters. He talks about the air conditioning Holocaust. That's
what a great chapter.
That's the chapter of the name of the book. So anyway, he talks about like he says, in a word, science will establish the kingdom of this world, like meaning this world right now, the present world, Earth. Of course, in the long run, the process will self-destruct, but not for now, not yet. And so he makes this claim that all of this technology provides us opportunities to do other things, but we don't actually do anything else. And this technology actually will be, and again, he's writing this in like the 60s and 70s, but he says like the technology will end up becoming so advanced that we actually do nothing.
Yeah.
And like how that's not what we're made for. And so like he's making a lot of like bold claims and strong claims in this book.
It's a good thing he didn't live to see today.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember when he died. but I don't think he. I don't
I believe
think
the 90s.
he didn't. Yeah, he didn't make it.
Or
to
no,
his-
it was early 2000s, I think.
Okay, so he.
2006, I think, is whenever he did.
Oh, see, you know what? That was the year after the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no,
I mean,
that was 2008.
oh, I don't know.
I
I don't know. Anyway, so like,
He did. I don't think he made it.
but it's a very interesting thought, right? Is that gluttony, which we always think about food, which is the main reason. Like, if you read Aquinas, things like that, you're talking like he mainly focuses on food, and it's the lack of temperance of things of this world that are good, but that it's disordered. It's a disordered pleasure of the things of this world that order your appetites to the point of like you can't stop. You're almost like it's a uncontrolling habit.
Right.
But it goes way beyond food, right? It can, it goes.
Yeah, historically it was just food.
Right.
It was, but there weren't these other appetites available.
Well, there was. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Okay. There weren't movies. A drug addict is a glutton. Okay. Now if he's an addict, he's addicted. So I'm not. If you're addicted to something, that means your free will has been compromised.
Yeah.
At best.
How culpable you are.
How culpable you are. That's not what I'm saying. But it is still the vice of gluttony.
Right.
Okay.
And so he talks about, so you bring in the idea of technology, right? And how, okay, well, what does the phone do? Well, the phone is able to, like, instead of like talking face to face to somebody, I can just call somebody, right? And just like talk to them on the phone. I don't have to talk to them face to face. And then it's like, oh, well, text messages, I don't even have to call them. I can just like send a quick text message and move on, right? And then email. And then like you bring in, social media and all these other things. And what it does is it moves us further and further and further away from human interaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like while these things are not in and of themselves, evil or terrible, what it does do is it deprives us of a greater good, namely human interaction,
real human interaction,
right? Like communion with one another,
not a mediated human interaction,
but a
real,
and we see
face to face.
But you see where
experience.
like because these things are so addicting, because they're easy to,
and they are absolutely
to order like these appetites disordered, in a disordered manner. You can see how the points of like these things that are meant to be good that save us time end up causing us to do nothing, which is not what we're made for. Or
spending more time just keeping up with the technology.
Well, this is what he's talking about, right? It's like you sit there and scroll and scroll and scroll.
Now it has to be monitors and babysitted. Oh well, there's another technology that helps you do that, but now that has to be taken care of and like
right. And so it gets to the
on
point where all of a sudden all you're doing is pushing buttons and like you're just looking at a screen. And so like I think that is something that is worth thinking about as we like look at our day, especially like, and this is a complete self-reflection. Like this is a self-reflection on my end. I'm a communications director. Like my job is to communicate out to the world like the things in which the bishop desires me to communicate.
And
so
you spend a lot of time on these devices.
Devices, and so.
But even if you weren't, I mean, I think everybody just can look at their own self and realize, yeah, my use of technology, especially my cell phone, there is absolutely a habitual element to it. Okay, because you get in an elevator and what do? You have that instinctive reaction where your hand is just in your pocket and you're pulling out your phone. Why? Because...
Or you're standing in the line of a grocery store or like whatever it is.
You just have nothing to do. I mean, you will be on the elevator for like 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Maybe longer if it's a huge, tall building. But we're talking about a very short period of time. And like, oh, I have nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull out my phone. Why? I don't know.
Right.
The problem I have with that is like that is not a human response. That's not a human action. It's an animalistic action. There is no intellect. I am not like deciding to do this. Okay.
Right, yeah.
I'm becoming more like an animal who does things by instinct, right? Just because I don't know why the dog chases the mailman. He just does, right? And that's what we're doing with our cell phones so often. Is I don't know, and like. I think everybody has done this where they look at their phone and put it away, and then
pull it right back out.
As they're putting it in their pocket, they realize, I don't even know was on my. I didn't even actually look at it.
Or have you ever done
put
this?
It in front of me.
This is embarrassing. Close an app just to reopen it. I've done this.
Like on purpose?
Like, I mean, just instinctively, right? Like, oh, okay, I'm on Facebook. I need to get off. You get off Facebook, and then you move your phone home screen over, and then you go back, and then open Facebook right back up.
Yeah, it's a habitual thing.
Right.
Right. We're not doing this as human beings. We're doing it as animals, right?
Right.
And I think the devil loves that.
Right, and there's an inconvenience, right? So the inconvenience of, like, it's more inconvenient for me to call you than to text you.
Yeah.
Right? Because now I can just think about my thought, put it to you, and then say, like, whenever you're available, right? But the further away you get removed from that, I think the bigger problem that I think I have with it, right? It's much more like inconvenient for me to actually drive to your house and see you and like interact with you, face to face.
Like in the
the
boomers.
What we did like for 6,000 years
when
or
the
whatever.
boomers were young. I mean,
right, and from all of eternity or from all of humankind.
Yeah, even when the boomers were like kind of medium.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Yeah,
can you believe that?
Right.
Because the bag
but
phone
then like
the
there
bag
is
phone did not count. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you didn't use it.
Pagers.
Too expensive. Pagers. Oh, I'm glad I wasn't.
What about Palm Pilots? Remember
dude,
those?
I had a Palm Pilot.
I did too.
It was just to play games on.
But anyway, I'm deviating. I'm just seeing like
we have a group of listeners who have no idea what a Palm Pilot is.
No, there's no idea.
Definitely, there's a whole lot of you.
But I just think that it's good to recollect. Okay, so like he talks about the things in which the manner in which like consumes you, but it has to be with your flesh, right? So he talks about the gluttony and talks about fornication, right? Yeah. Fornication obviously is a understood thing of what that is, but gluttony, I think you can really look at not only food, like, am I sad, so do I go to food? Do I turn to food? Am I happy, and so I turn to food?
I think
drink.
To me, gluttony is an appetite for anything. I think media...
A disordered appetite.
Disordered appetite. And I think you're right about media, I think, is far more prevalent as a gluttonous appetite for our media than for our food these days.
And it ends up bleeding into apathy. The thing is it births apathy.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
I killed way too much time there, but I thought it was like...
It was good. It was a good conversation. It's all right. Over here. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan. We're talking about what's wrong with this world. The eight principal faults. It's sin. Spoiler alert, it is sin. You should stop doing it. I'll work on stopping. Adam,
help me stop sinning, but not yet.
Not yet. Tomorrow. We have a, we were just talking about gluttony and how it leads to like depression and just
apathy.
Apathy,
like,
dejection.
Where your appetite. So like,
but the point I want to make here.
Okay, sorry.
Is we have Pamela found this quote somewhere, and I think it's so rich, and I've pondered this, and I don't remember who the author is. It doesn't matter, but the quote is, "He who is diligent will soon be cheerful." And I think there's so much to think about there. He who is diligent will soon be cheerful. You know, that if we put ourselves to the task doing something well, the things that we should be doing, right?
Right.
All of a sudden you find yourself like cheerful, you find yourself satisfied with your work, with your day. I think there's just it's a very rich thing to he who is diligent will soon be cheerful.
I like that.
So let's move on from gluttony.
Okay. I had another thought, but it's okay. We'll keep going.
Would you like to say it? I will allow you to say it.
So I was just gonna say, you know how like glutton with food, right? So like you have like you eat chocolate. Chocolate is delicious. You eat it, and it's like, oh man, this is so good.
I do eat chocolate.
But then you become a glutton for chocolate, and then the chocolate actually doesn't taste as good.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like it just becomes normal. and the same, like, I just want to parallel that with this idea of with techne, right? Because what ends up happening is you become like you need more and more and more of this chocolate to get this dopamine hit, to get this satisfaction.
Yeah.
And when you're looking for, the problem is like with gluttony, with food, with chocolate, it ends up making you fat and obese.
So fat.
But what happens with this idea of techne is it makes you become a fat soul. Not a body, but a fat soul. And I'm stealing this totally from Deacon Harrison Garlick. He wrote an article, which we're going to have him on to talk about this, but he's talking about a fat soul, like, and the sin of acedia, the sin of apathy. Mm-hmm. And so, like, what happens is like, because you get accustomed to this idea of, this isn't what he says, but like how I'm paralleling this is that, like, what happens with technology is like you end up being so distant from from reality, right? That you don't even remember what reality is anymore, and you end up becoming a fat soul.
It's Plato's cave.
It's Plato's cave.
It's hardcore Plato's cave.
Anyway, I just thought that was important. That one was for me.
So let's just do a quick review here of the passions of gluttony and fornication.
Okay.
And their remedies.
Oh.
Okay. So here we know the problem now. Let's discuss.
Okay.
Let's talk about how to make it better.
Okay.
Okay. So there are two that arise from us naturally, but cannot be. These two, glutton and fornication. They arise from us naturally, but cannot be consummated without first finding an external object. Okay, so we already decided that. Mm-hmm. These two faults in particular, which are carried into effect by the aid of the flesh, especially require bodily abstinence, as well as spiritual care of the soul. So that's what he's saying, is we need to practice abstinence. He's talking about fasting and abstinence of the sexual appetite, if that's what your problem is. Since the determination of the mind is not in itself enough to resist these attacks. We cannot simply decide, I'm going to stop being a glutton. I'm going to stop being
I mean, St. Paul talks about this, right? Like, I do the things that I don't wish to do.
Right.
So St. Paul St. Paul, one of the main writers of the New Testament, mm-hmm. Talked about how, like, he can't just decide, I'm going to do this and do it.
Right. Now, St. Cassian will go on to say that there are certain things that one can simply resolve to do, like resolve to give up. He uses the example of, like, avarice. Okay, like when a man enters the monastery and simply gives all of his possessions away. Mm-hmm. He takes a vow of poverty. Okay,
this is a grace, though. I mean, it's not like his desire. Like, this is all grace.
Right. Well, everything is. You could always say that about everything. But fighting against gluttony, overcoming gluttony is a grace, but it's not going to happen. The way that grace operates is not simply through the intellect. Okay, you have to chastise the body. Mm-hmm. That's what he's saying, is that bodily chastisement must be carried out by means of fasting and vigils. And he says, another thing he says, which I think was interesting, this must be added with a change of scene.
I like that. I totally like that. Right?
Yeah.
Whenever you're in the throes of sin and you look around you.
Change of scene.
You look around and you're like, who are my friends? Like, what am I doing? Like, what is causing me to do this? Like, what situation in this life has led me to this moment in which I
so if you stay in that same place physically,
right?
Like if you find yourself, when I am at this place, like at home by myself, mm-hmm. that's when gluttony and fornication. That's when these sins take place. Okay, well, don't be at home by yourself.
Right.
Okay, if you live alone, that's kind of a problem. But you know what I mean.
Important.
You need to change. Go outside.
Right.
If you're like being tempted, literally go somewhere else, mm-hmm. because the temptation might not be easily follow you. Mm-hmm. You know, mm-hmm. I thought that was really good.
That's a very easy, but
yeah, it's
simple.
easy to say,
right?
But when you're in the moment, it's so hard to get up and like go.
Simple
and
answers
do
don't always yield or mean like simple resolutions, right? Like being able
even though it would simply work,
right?
If you would simply do it.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easy to do.
Yeah, but it's not that simple.
Right.
My CDs are in his truck. Sorry. Inside joke.
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay, so let's talk about the chain.
Okay.
I like the chain. Okay, so he says of these 8 that there are 6 that are linked together. The other 2 are also linked together.
Well, then so all 8 are linked together.
No, there's 2 chains. One of them is just two little links together,
Okay,
and then
gotcha.
the other one has 6 links.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, I'm following.
Any excess, he says that any excess of one forms a starting point for the next.
That makes
Okay?
sense.
He says this: from the superfluidity of gluttony, fornication is sure to spring, and from fornication, covetousness; from covetousness, anger; from anger, dejection; and from dejection, acedia. And we must fight against them in the same way, and having overcome one, we must move on to the next. Okay.
This is like the devil's playbook, like
Right.
written out.
This is what he does. Yeah, because he starts with, once again, you notice, where is he starting? He's starting with gluttony. What's interesting about gluttony is that it comes from within us. Okay? Everybody's got it. There is not a person on the planet who doesn't have the temptation for food, for like appetites, right? Because we all desire the good. Okay, that's what our appetites are. We've all got an appetite. So all he needs to do is like, start to push it. Just a little bit more. A little bit. Oh, it's good, right? Oh, it's your birthday. You know, it's like, oh, it's whatever, right? Have more. It's that word of more. And then from there, you can start to move on into other worse things, right? So he's starting with that common universal of gluttony.
Yeah.
So St. Cassian says, in order to overcome, this is what happens. In order to overcome acedia, you must first get the better of dejection. In order to get rid of dejection, anger must first be expelled. In order to quell anger, covetousness must be trampled underfoot. In order to root out covetousness, fornication must be checked. And in order to destroy fornication, you must chastise the sin of gluttony. So he's just going backwards here. So where do you start? You start with gluttony. First, overcome your appetites. Overcome your own desires, right? How well do you fast? You know, and then like, how well do you fast? You should you need to be fasting. If you're listening to this show,
yes.
If you're a man, you fast.
You fast.
That's the way it is. Nobody maybe told you. I'm telling you now. Okay, pick it up. It's not fun, but you're better for it. Okay, the 2 remaining faults are vainglory and pride, and they're connected. Similarly, basically, the superfluidity of vainglory produces an incentive to pride. The other 6, he says, do not give rise to vainglory. You can have the other 6 problems out the wazoo, and that won't make you. They never lead you to vainglory and pride. Now, you might be led there by other things, but it's not because you're gluttonous. Okay. I want to jump to this, and it might be.
Just stay in your seat. You don't have to even jump to it.
Let me just skip ahead to this. Instead of like going through the things about all of these that are like, oh, distinction.
I do like those though.
This is one. I thought this was interesting. He said, "How vainglory may be useful to us." Okay. So he says, vainglory can be found a useful thing for beginners. What he means by beginners are people who are still like struggling with in the moral life, still having struggling with gluttony,
with flesh,
with the flesh, right? Yeah, and mortal sin, right? So he says, when we are troubled by the spirit of fornication, for instance, if the beginner formed an idea of the dignity of the priesthood, because he's writing to priests, right? Or of reputation among all men, by which they may be thought saints and immaculate. And so with these considerations, they repel the unclean suggestion of lust, as deeming them base and at least unworthy of their rank and reputation. And so by means of a smaller evil, they overcome a greater one. For it is better for man to be troubled by the sin of vainglory than for him to fall into the desire of fornication. So he says, well, if you think much of yourself, maybe that helps you overcome lust. Smaller, I just thought that was interesting.
Very interesting.
Still one of the 8 principal faults.
We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
That seems a little like the ends don't justify the means.
Well, yeah.
It
Vainglory.
seems like
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Because
like-
vainglory, we're not promoting sin.
Right.
And I don't think he is either. I think he's just pointing out the fact that.
But that wouldn't be vainglory. Like the pointing of the fact of like, oh, look at the progress that I've made. I'm no longer struggling with this. Now look how like, oh, and I'm a
so
saint.
great.
I'm so.
Well-
But that's just like a recognition of. That's either a recognition of, look at the progress that I've made in this spiritual life, which is a good thing. It may be a lack of humility in some way, shape, or form.
Well, so let me say this again.
Okay.
So if you get like, oh, he forms an idea of the dignity of the priesthood. Okay, though that's good.
That's a good thing.
Or of his reputation among all men. Okay, even still something worthy to be think about. But then he says, by which they may be thought saints and immaculate. Okay, so
right.
now
there it is.
There it is. That's the vainglory part. Okay. Even so, it might be vainglory, but you're still, should you? I think it's worthy to pursue a reputation where you're thought immaculate and a saint, if you are in fact a saint. Okay, like we should be striving for great things. We're not striving for it just so that other people will think it. Okay.
The reality is, though, as you're striving for sainthood and you grow, closer and closer to our Lord, which is sainthood, the more and more you realize
how far away you are.
How far away you are.
Yeah, and often the more and more your reputation might be maligned.
Right.
Among certain people, not among all men.
Right.
But anyway, so
I get his point.
I don't think he's promoting saying.
I would like to know what the translation is.
This
because
was not his prescription.
Yeah.
To get rid of gluttony. He says to cure gluttony, you need to fasting and abstinence.
Right.
That's what you need to do.
Right.
I think he was just pointing out the phenomenon of.
Yeah, I understand.
Interesting thing of how vainglory actually does help certain things.
I would also be interested to know if the translation actually translates it the same word into vainglory. You know what I mean? Like the original text.
I think it does because it's its own section. It's its own heading.
Okay.
Where it's like, maybe about how vainglory can be useful to us.
Maybe so. I just thought it was interesting. I totally blew up this episode tonight. I'm really sorry, man. Like you had a bunch of things that we were gonna go over, and
we had a good discussion. Like a lot of this other stuff was just there are three forms of fornication: that which is accomplished by sexual intercourse, that which, well, let me pick a different one. Okay, because there are three forms of covetousness: that which hinders renunciants from allowing themselves to be stripped of their goods and property. That's one. That which draws us to resume with excessive eagerness the possession of those things which we have given away and distributed to the poor. That's two. And that which leads a man to covet and procure that which he previously never possessed. So that's not all that exciting. But there are three forms. There are three distinctions of covetousness. He does this for all of them. Dejection, like, let's just mention that because that one is interesting. I think it is what you think it is. It's like just kind of like being mopey.
We are who they thought we were.
And I think dejection is something that is going to be more prevalent to people with certain personality types.
Sure.
So if you're melancholic.
So dejection, again, this is a low spirit, like almost like
right.
Like
it's not one of the 7 deadly sins, but
right.
I think it is rightly reckoned as a principal fault. Because if you're just like mopey for no reason,
mm-hmm.
then there is a fault there, right? Because we should be joyful people, okay? And I know that like some people, just they're naturally not like super excited all the time, okay? And that's all right.
Very phlegmatic.
Right, but
or melancholic.
And melancholic, yeah, but that doesn't mean that we're not called to a recognition of the truth and the joy of what it means to be a Christian all the time, and be ready constantly for charity, to be charitable towards other people. And in fact, you have, I know this is like, for those people who struggle with this, like this is not helpful, but you have a more opportunity for charity.
Oh,
because it's harder.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
it's true. It's true.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? You can, you know what? Why don't you just, I have some words. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm working on my average.
I get
right
it.
now.
I know exactly, but still. It is the way it is. All right. Do you have any questions? Anything else?
I think you did a great job tonight.
Thank you. I think you did a great job tonight. Just want to make sure there's nothing else.
I'm super pumped about the camp out. I'm also very nervous about all the things that we still have to get done.
Yeah. We almost didn't record tonight because of all the stuff we had to get done.
I know.
Yet
I have to work. Like, I'm getting up at like 5:30 in the morning so that we can go to work and get things done at work, so that way I can get to the camp out on time. The things in which, here's the thing: everybody wants to have a podcast and do things until like sacrifice has to get like. It's like you don't realize all the things in which you have to do
until you like have to still make an episode for the week.
Right.
Yeah. You know what, Adam? He who is diligent will soon be cheerful.
I'm so happy right now.